What's going on, everybody? So, Conor McGregor is back in the news. And you might say, Corey, why do you want to talk about Conor McGregor, bro? He's washed up, bro. He's this, he's that. Conor McGregor has been the biggest combat sports athlete that the world has ever seen, despite the trend that is continuing to go downward for him. He still is that. And I'm one of those people, I'm a little bit sentimental. You know what I mean? And here's what I mean by that. If you look at all of the greats, people who have impacted sports throughout history, they all wind up having a movie made about them, right? Muhammad Ali, there's a Mike Tyson movie, especially in fight sport, always has a movie made about them, right? Conor McGregor is no different. And listen, do not be deceived. There will be a feature length film on the life and career of Conor McGregor. Just live with me for a second. Have you ever been watching a movie like, man, this movie has been a banger. I mean, this is a great movie. And then you get to the last 5 minutes of the movie and you're like, wait, it's not going to end right here, right? This isn't the closing scene. There's no way this movie ends this way. If this movie ends this way, I take back everything good that I said about this movie for the last 2 hours, because this movie sucks now if it ends this way. In every good movie, there has to be a turning point, okay? There has to be a turning point in the main character storyline where they hit a brick wall head on and they say, you know what? I'm effing my life up. This isn't working for me. I need to turn this ship around, right the things that I've done wrong, and get this ship headed back in the right direction. Okay? And we're experiencing history with Conor McGregor right now. And every time I see him, every time I see a clip of him, I see a guy who is riling from a drug addiction. People don't understand that. People just want to point, no, it's a, oh, big problem to have. You got millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. You can get all the drugs you want, get all the women that you want outside of your marriage, nonetheless, and blah, blah, blah. You got, Lamborghini yachts and this, oh, yeah, we really feel sorry for Conor McGregor. I'm telling you now, as a person who has struggled with drug addiction in my life, I wasn't able to continue the habits, and to think about the fact that there were no yes men or yes women around me, and the fact that there were only a small circle of people who had an actual invested interest from a caring perspective in me, that was a blessing to me. That's the only thing that ever pulled me out of it. And when you're an addict, you run yourself out of jobs, you run yourself out of homes, you run yourself out of money, you run yourself out of relationships that where people will stay because you're pushing everybody away. But when you're someone like Conor McGregor, worth the amount of money that he's worth, and have a whole industry of people literally pecking at you and in a lot of ways depending on you for their own welfare constantly. Plus, you have a ton of yes people around you. Plus, you have tons of money in the bank. To be a drug addict, yet have unlimited access to money and drugs, that's no bueno. That's no good. And listen, I'm not saying I feel sorry for him in the sense that, oh, poor Connor, because each man makes his own choice. And I guess my point in all of this is I hope he gets to a point where he makes the right choice so that we can see that turning point in the movie that is his life. Because when I watch the Conor McGregor biography movie years down the road, I don't want to get to the end of it and be like, damn, that sucks, man. He potentially could have been this. He potentially could have been that, and look how it ended, you know. An early death, or worse, just a slow fade into obscurity. I don't know which would be worse for him, but we're going to watch some clips today that, again, show without a shadow of a doubt that Conor McGregor is absolutely on drugs. He's absolutely strung out on definitely cocaine. I'm not sure what else might be mixed in with this little cocktail that he's got going on, but we're going to watch some clips with him and Jake and Logan Paul recently when they were at the presidential inauguration and headed to the presidential inauguration. And we're also going to watch an interview where he had with the Schmo where he clears up some things for us. You know, this talk about Logan Paul, Conor McGregor boxing match, and ironically enough, this was being flooded into the media outlets from MacLife, the media channel that Conor McGregor actually owns. We can deduct at this point what has actually happened, what has been said by the UFC, because as you know, he's under contract with the UFC. There's a lot to unpack here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start with these clips of Conor McGregor, Jake Paul, and Logan Paul first meeting one another on the street. And before we start this clip, take notice of Logan Paul's face, okay, throughout this. And then towards the end of it, take a look at Jake Paul's face. Look at the way they're looking at each other, okay? And look at the blank stare that they have of almost like, this dude is effed up on something, you know? So just take a look.
It's all sweet here, it's all sweet here, yeah. You kept your mouth shut, you did. I thought we were going to get the fight down when you get very quiet.
What did you think the best course of action was for that?
Right there, first off, Conor says, you kept your mouth shut, you did. You kept your mouth shut. You know, and so basically what he was saying is he put the feelers out there, oh, this big, you know, boxing match between Conor McGregor and Logan Paul. He was trying to make that happen. He was trying to get not only Logan Paul, but was also trying to get, you know, the rest of the world and the fan base behind that and garner some interest so that when he presented this as a business opportunity, which we'll get to later, he actually did present this as a business opportunity to the UFC. We know this now, okay? He did talk to Dana White about this. But when it fell on deaf ears and when Logan Paul didn't respond in kind the way that Conor McGregor thought he did, and then it went across UFC's desk and they were like, no, not doing that, not doing that. So now it's pretty much dead in the water. We already know that boxing match is not going to happen, and we're going to talk about that. So that's what Conor is talking about here. And then Logan responds, what else would you have had me do? Right? Okay, so let's keep going.
Giving all this Dana, that, you're f***ing control with the WWE as well, but don't be giving all this mega step.
I didn't hear the last 5 seconds.
That was in the air for us, brother. Yes, bring it home for me.
It's 8 a.m. How?
I'm laughing, but this is actually really sad. I'm very familiar with drugs, okay, guys, and I mean, I actually take Vyvanse for like adult ADD in the mornings, and it does give you kind of an energy boost. Once I have that and have a little bit of my coffee, it gives me kind of an extra boost of energy, you know. So I know what it's like to kind of be a little bit in the morning, but nothing like this. This is no Vyvanse. This is no Adderall. This is no 2 shots of espresso and a strong cup of coffee. This is every hour or so I'm pulling out my. That's what that is. And I hate to be laughing because, like I said, again, it's actually really sad because this guy's out of control at this point, right? His slip is hanging. And with these sexual assault liabilities, pretty much most, if not all, of his brand deals to drop him. I mean, you know, this guy's losing money right and left. I mean, fortunately for him, he has so much already, and now he's made a play, you know, bought stake in BKFC, whatever. But I mean, I think if anything, in the end, he's going to end up hurting them more than helping them. But anyway, we'll get to that as well, because I actually have a video of him showing up at the BKFC event, and again, it's all over the place. His face is red. I mean, you just are looking at a guy that just did a line of Kane before he walked out onto the stage. You can tell it. And then the sporadic behavior, him playing with the Mac Life when they're known to be one of the most reputable media companies in this space of MMA, right? And he's going and strong arming them. Hey, put this information out. Well, I mean, Connor, is this fight really going to happen? Is this really? Well, I'm trying to make it. Put it out there, yeah. I mean, just he's all over the place. But you hear Logan Paul right there. He's like, it's 8 a.m. And you can clearly see he and Jake Paul. Now, I'm sure those guys aren't perfect. I'm sure they do their share of partying, but they're not coke heads, right? So their response, Logan's response, is like, what? I mean, aside from the thick Irish accent, which admittedly is kind of hard to understand at times, Logan humorously right there is like, it's 8 a.m. In other words, like, calm down, bro. We're just trying to wake up over here. I mean, we didn't, he might as well have said, we didn't snort a line of cocaine before the camera got turned on like you did. Calm down. It's too early for this shit, basically is what he was saying. So this next clip is Logan, Jake Paul, and then Conor on the bus where they're on their way to the presidential inauguration. Now, let's watch this one.
Real deal, yeah? In front of you, you know that. You know that, bro. So we'll look how we'll do it. You wouldn't do what?
Again, look how his face is turning red, and he's, everything he does is like really intense, like really like screaming, like, dude, bro, I'm standing a foot and a half away from you. Why are you screaming? Let's keep going.
190, 195, so I'd be 190. He was sick. He was sick over it, yeah. He was sick.
I mean, you see Jake and Logan look at each other right there like, holy shit. This guy in person is a freaking piece. He is a piece of work. And, if you're not a drug addict and you're not a guy that's already been snorting and has already done an 8-ball of cocaine at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you get around someone like this with this sort of intense, like, high energy, it just, and of course the cameras are on because it's Conor, and then Conor is expecting, hoping that, they're going to jump in with him and create this moment, this magical moment that's going to go out to the whole world, and they're going to create this magical beef, and then it's going to set up a potential fight later on, because he does say and admit later on that he does want to get into influencer boxing, because why would he go back into the UFC to make $6-7 million where he's in there with a killer who can choke him to death, kick him in his leg that already has a titanium plate in it, potentially break his leg again? Why would he want to get in there to do that sort of fight when he could go and do a eight round boxing spar and make 3, 4, 5 times as much money as he would if he would have fight in the UFC? I mean, he's 36 years old at this point. He's on the upper half, headed to 40. He doesn't want to get back into the UFC. I mean, that's a dangerous place, especially for a guy like that who's living this sort of lifestyle, and drugs and partying are just as much part of his lifestyle as training, if not more. Okay? But you can tell by looking at Jake and Logan there, they're just like, I mean, he's leaving two of the biggest trolls in the world almost speechless. They're both just like, damn, I just can't keep up. I can't even keep up, And Logan finally says something here that I thought was a good line. He just, he's trying to do what he can to make it a moment, maybe to set something up for later on. But you can just tell by looking at both of them now. To be fair, Jake probably is mostly keeping his mouth shut because this is kind of a Logan thing, because Logan's under WWE. They're WWE and UFC are both under that TKO banner, so they could have potentially done business together. Jake is kind of his own, separate entity with Most Valuable Promotions. With Conor being under contract with the UFC, it wouldn't have been as easy to make a fight with Jake. So that's why Conor put the feelers out about Logan. Okay, but so that's, to be fair, probably why Jake isn't saying as much. He doesn't want to steal the thunder from this potential opportunity that his older brother has. So he's being relatively quiet. But even Logan is not really sure what to say. You know, and he finally does say something right here. So check it out.
I'm gonna slap the head off the two of yous and KSI. No! Yous are mixers to me. You understand that? Side jobs. A little side job.
No,
yeah?
you can't even do your main job. How you gonna do a side job?
You know, that's what I'm afraid of. November stage.
Simmer down, boys. Yeah. Bro, it's crazy being on a bus with you,
yeah,
bro.
Like
if there's a dolly, bro, they'd be going through a window.
That's a fair point by Logan. Fair point. You can't even get back into the UFC and do what your main job is. How do we expect you to come do a side job boxing one of us? You know, because they understand, you know, this whole contractual situation that he's in with Dana White and the UFC. They know that he's basically Dana's bitch, that he can't do anything. He can't breathe, fart, do anything as far as, you know, fight sports unless Dana approves it, right? That's pretty much it on that particular one. But that just goes to show, you know, 8 in the morning and you have this much energy. And I know there's Conor nut huggers out there. So, well, that's his persona. He's a promoter. He's a salesman. He's a fight promoter. That's what he does. You can tell by looking at his face. You can tell by looking at the redness of how he's just bearing down every second. You know, that is the sign of someone who is synthetically hyped up on speed. People like me can spot it. Sorry. So this next clip we're going to look at is Conor McGregor interviewing with the Schmo. And here he talks about the Logan Paul, Conor McGregor matchup, how the talks of that came to be, that he submitted this to the UFC. The UFC didn't want to have any of it. So we're going to watch this, and then we're going to talk a little bit about why I think that happened the way it did and why Dana White and the UFC don't want to have anything to do with it. So let's check this out.
Just came from the inauguration. You sized up both the Paul brothers, Logan and Jake Paul. You called them side quests. We know what it's all about. What's your reaction? They're posting it all over the internet.
You know, it is what it is. The UFC just aren't into it. I had the offer was there on the table in writing. You know, both athletes will say he's not a fighter, but whatever. Both athletes under the TKO banner, UFC, WWE, both rising up. You know, the stock price of TKO holding group through the roof. New market in India opened up and booming. It was business savvy and business sense to make the fight happen, or should I say, the glorified spar happen. And in between this waiting period that we find ourselves in before I can get back to the octagon, it made perfect sense on the calendar to go ahead with it. The UFC went into it. I'm not sure the WWE what their interest in was. I just knew the UFC went into it, and. You know, and what's his name? The other Logan. He just kept quiet. He didn't say nothing. I was like, mate, you need to say something. You need to open your fucking mouth. I wasn't talking to him directly. He put up this video and edited it like I'd send him a voice note. I was talking to the fucking crowd that was the Ambani royal family of India, and then they were sending it to him. And I was like, mate, it's basic trying to get him to get going. I had no problem doing that. And to be honest, I'd have done it either way. Just said that they. Well,
there it is. Final message for all the Conor McGregor fans out there worldwide. And by the way, you said it was Logan, not Jake. It was going to be the boxing match in India, yeah?
It was always Logan. 2 TKO fighters. They don't really. The Ambani family and the advisors for them, they were shrewd. They understood. I am a UFC fighter. He is a WWE football. Both to get one without the other, and it would be difficult. So it was always Logan, yeah, for sure. It was always Logan, and I like it. Like I said, I am more inclined now for this influencer, fucking whatever you call it, because it's astronomical money, Shimon. It's astronomical, the figures. So, you know, here was our Jake, Logan, and fucking KSI. I like the three of these guys, and then all the other ones that are tussling around. It's an interesting little side pocket branch, we'll call it. Yeah, stuff that down me suck, and out I go.
Okay, let's stop right there for a second. So, basically, what he said is, you know, he submitted this idea to the UFC. The UFC didn't want to have anything to do with it. The reason I think that is true is, well, 2 reasons. One reason is that they don't trust that Conor will make good on whatever fight it is. Okay? And obviously they have him under contract, so there's, you know, little bit of red tape and hurdles that they have to jump over there because he's contractually still obligated to the UFC, and then this will be something that would be, done under a completely different banner. It wouldn't be under the UFC banner. However, you have known Dana and them in the past to be a very savvy businessman. He did the fight with Floyd Mayweather back in the day. I think that this is one of those things where, one, they don't necessarily trust that Conor will make good on it. But number two, I think Dana doesn't want to open that Pandora's box, right? Because he saw how the floodgates opened up when he did that McGregor Mayweather fight back in the day. Everybody and their brother from then on out, he had so many people asking him to do some sideshow boxing match, and he just didn't want to get into that business. He didn't want everybody else to think that he's in the business of doing what Conor and Floyd Mayweather did, right? I mean, he had Francis ask for it. I know more recently Sean O'Malley was talking about, if he would have beaten Merab, he was wanting to go fight Gervonta Davis. I mean, it's just, there's been plenty of athletes to talk about it and talk about wanting to do it. Kamaru Usman at one time was talking about wanting to box Canelo Alvarez. I mean, just, these UFC champions get a couple of defenses up under their belts, and that's literally for the last 5-10 years, that's all Dana's been hearing, and I think he just wants to close the door on that and let everybody know and make an example of Conor in this situation. No, that's not what we do. We do MMA fights. We are the MMA industry leader. I don't want to gray the lines. I don't want to blur the lines there. I want to do what we do best, because if we're taking resources and time to go and do these sideshow things, that's taking away time, resources, and money that we could be putting into staying and remaining the MMA industry leader. Probably not a bad idea for Dana, but I will say it is the Mac Life, which is Conor's media company owned by Conor McGregor, that put that false narrative out that Logan Paul versus Conor McGregor was happening and that it was a $500 million payday. Conor had them do that, right? And he had everybody going, what? And I mean, even I thought that, I wouldn't put it past Dana and the UFC, because Conor had a potentially career-ending injury in his last fight with Poirier. It is very, very possible that behind the scenes, doctors have said to him, hey, you probably shouldn't fight MMA anymore. You probably should not take leg kicks anymore. If this goes wrong, it could end up being career ending for you. We could end up having to amputate the leg because there's, nerves and muscles and tissue and all that stuff has to coalesce back together correctly, or there could be poor circulation, and there's just all kinds of potential problems that could happen with an injury like that. So in the background, Conor could have been advised to never fight MMA again, but yet he has 2 fights left. So I thought to myself, maybe Dana and them would work out something with him. It would be a huge payday to get Logan and Conor in there together, and maybe they could just wash their hands of Conor and call his last 2 fights done, but instead it would just be a boxing match. But I think at the end of the day, Dana doesn't want to do that because he knows that that will open up Pandora's box for all of the rest of these UFC guys, Sean O'Malley, Ilia Topuria, Conor McGregor, all these other guys to want to go and box this person and box that person, and he wants to close the door on all that.
One of these days, you just hear my music come onto the stage here in Bare Knuckle Fight Championship, and now I come with me fist wrapped with no gloves and I fight out of nowhere, no promo, no nothing, just fighting a random fight in a car. That could be where my future holds, and legal, just making claims and all this bollocks. That's what pussies. That's how.
Okay, let's recap right there. First off, where he says, I may just show up to some card randomly, no promotion or anything, and have my fist wrapped and just go in and fight bare knuckle. All right, I don't believe for one second that Conor's going to do that. That's just him talking. That's the drugs talking. Again, that's just him rambling, just in his, compromised brain state. He's just rambling. He's not going to do that. If he's going to go in and fight anyone, he's going to make sure that thing gets promoted up front so that it can mean as much of this as possible, right? And if he just walked in one night with his hands taped, do you know how many more people would have probably shown up and paid to be at that event to watch him fight if they would have known that he was going to fight? There's no way he's going to do something like that without promotion. That's just something he said. But what he says right there at the end, he's like, legal, making plans that ask for pussies. And then he kind of walks off. Like, what was he talking about there? Probably the UFC and probably Dana White. Because as we know, he's under an exclusive contract with the UFC, and he can't do anything unless the UFC and Dana White signs off on it. And listen, this is a big problem, okay? Because the problem Conor is having right now is he's locked into this UFC contract. He doesn't want to face that high-level competition. Plus, it's more dangerous than taking some influencer boxing match, of course, right? He has so much more monetary worth if he were to be a free agent. He could potentially make so much more money if he did not have a contract with the UFC and was able to go and box here and box this and box that influencer. He's talking about KSI, Jake Paul, Logan Paul. He wants to be able to do these things. Lesser competition, less harm on the body, more money. It's the American dream. Anybody would want that. Somebody's going to pay you $50 an hour to sit and just push a button all day, or they're going to pay you $15 an hour to go and dig ditches out in the 100-degree Arizona heat all day. Which one are you going to do? It's a no-brainer, and that's what Conor is facing here, because, his contract per the UFC is only going to give him so much when he goes in there to fight, right? And then he's looking at these Jake Pauls and KSIs and Logan Pauls and all these guys just to get in there on a simple boxing match where they're not even kicks being thrown, and he could potentially be looking at $30-40 million. Jake Paul made $40 million his last fight against Mike Tyson. Conor McGregor is trying to get some of that. He's trying to get some of that, but he can't get some of that. And he made such a desperate play to get some of that he actually tried to almost force the hand of Dana White and the UFC by putting out this false narrative that he and Logan Paul had a fight set together, and then ultimately had his attorneys put it up in writing and in a contract and submit it to the UFC, and actually made the UFC have to say no to it. These are the kind of desperate measures that you're seeing from this guy.
Like I said, I am more inclined now for this influencer, fucking whatever you call it, because it's astronomical money, Shimon. It's astronomical, the figures. So, here was our Jake, Logan, and fucking KSI. I like the three of these guys, and then all the other ones that are tussling around. It's an interesting little side pocket branch, we'll call it. Yeah, stuff that don't me suck, and out I go.
No, I know he's got a thick Irish accent. I do sometimes struggle with it, but he's saying right there, not as hard a competition, not as likely to get hurt, and you can make a shit ton more money than you can for the UFC. It's basically exactly what he's saying without actually coming out of his mouth and saying it for fear of pissing off the boss of the UFC, right? So he comes right out of his mouth and says it right there. I think we've been seeing this aspect of it coming for a little while now, and that's absolutely what he's looking to do here. And I can't say that I blame him, but if I was any of these guys, Logan Paul, Jake Paul, KSI, Dana, I would be more concerned about getting this guy some personal help. Right? He's got too many people around him that just want to be part of the Conor McGregor empire and the Conor McGregor business. And he's got no one that's willing to, as a caring person who really gives a shit about his well-being, sit him down and say, hey, I'm kind of worried about you. worried about where your life is headed, where your mind is headed. What about going into a rehab program, getting a little help with this, then so you can turn your life around. You've already made a shit ton of money, stop worrying about the money, turn your life around and then get clean, come back out of hiding in a year and a half or so. We have that turning point in the movie, and then you can use your business savvy to start your own boxing promotion where influencers come, and maybe you get in a couple of boxing matches as an older aging fighter. People will still pay for it. I mean, anytime this guy ever gets back into a ring or an octagon, I don't care how long it's been, people will watch. He's Conor McGregor, one of the biggest names in fight sports ever. And you can't tell me that's not true. Anderson Silva, his name's not as big as Conor McGregor. People watched him at 47 years old to compete against Jake Paul. Mike Tyson, 30 years out of his prime. And people watch that, just hoping to see just a glimpse of that brilliance that he showed in his prime, I mean, people are always going to watch Conor, so somebody needs to sit him down and get him some actual help. All right, let's watch a little bit of where he shows up at this BKFC press conference, and then we're going to end it. So check this out.
Oh, Philly! Sorry I'm late, I don't give a fuck. I'm the big boss around here. Philadelphia, what's up? I'm here to summon the gods of fighting to action. May they turn our combatants' knuckles to knives. And on Saturday night, may we all bleed in the honor of Philadelphia's rich fighting history. Yeah. May we, as Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships organization, the alien of combat sport, rise above the night sky and rain down blows viciously and prove our worth against any deniers. May local boy and former UFC lightweight world champion, former Bellator world champion, shut this man up over here, Jeremy Stevens. He's coming in here into Philadelphia. He's coming in here into Philadelphia on this on this great sporting weekend and trying to take you out, Eddie. This is as big a fight as it gets with world title fight implications. Like I said, combatants, turn your knuckles to knives. Bleed in the honor of Philadelphia's rich fighting history and show the people what Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship is about. Let's go, Philadelphia. Let's go, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship.
So, I mean, guys, I've been around people before that are on cocaine, okay? I mean, this guy absolutely, 1,000% did a line right before he walked out there. And people could say to me, oh, Corey, come on, man, that's just part of his persona. He's a fighter. I mean, he's always been that. Listen, he's always been on cocaine, too. And you look at this latest sexual assault liability case. This happened back in 2018. I mean, that was a solid 6 years ago, and he was an effing veteran at that time and admitted to having cocaine on that night and using it with this friend that he used to go use cocaine with. So, I mean, Conor's been a cocaine user for ages. All right, this is not a new thing for him. But it is one of those things now that he's getting older, now that he's 36 years old. I'm telling you, I could do whatever I wanted to when I was younger in my 20s and 30s. But once I started getting up late 30s, 40 years old, I started having some, health complications of like, dude, you got to start treating your body better, and I got help, and now I exercise all the time. I eat healthier, so it's one of those things where this is starting to take its toll on Conor, and not just physically with the red face and the clenched jaw. There's no telling what his blood pressure is, all the time, but just mentally too, because you can see the sporadic nature by which he thinks, and I know part of it is what he does as an entertainer, trying to create opportunities and moments, and the fight with Logan and this, and I get it, but he went about it in completely the wrong way. He, of all people, should know that's not the way you try to get through to Dana White. All of a sudden, the internet literally explodes with news of you and Logan Paul in a boxing match, and then someone comes to your boss Dana about it, and he's like, what? Post-fight press conferences, he's getting asked about this stuff, and Conor hasn't consulted with him on it at all before. You don't do that when a company's got you under contract, and Conor knows this. But it just goes to show the sporadic way of thinking that he's possessed with right now. I think I'm different because of my past experiences than a lot of content creators on here, because I actually wish the best for the guy, because I'm going to watch that movie 10 years from now when it comes out, and I hope that this movie actually has that moment where the ship begins to turn and things start to trend this way again, because he's achieved things in this sport and in this business that no one had ever achieved before, right? And the wealth, I mean, the MMA's first mega superstar, right? And nobody can ever take away from him those accolades that he's achieved that. Now, when you're on top of the world, you have plenty of haters, and those same haters are going to be there when you start to fall and when you start to descend and you start to do this. Those same haters are going to show up. He's got his haters. I get that. But when I watch that movie 10 years from now about the life of Conor McGregor, I want it to be, you see him win, he's on top of the world, and then you see his struggles and his addiction start to really take him down, and then eventually there's a switch and a turning point in his life that causes him to turn his life around, and then he again has a resurgence. But it's unfortunate, because you can get to a point where your name is so big that it hurts you in situations like that, because Conor's been out of the game for so long, he doesn't even really need to fight a top 10 guy right now, right? But you can't give Conor McGregor somebody who doesn't have a big name, because people are going to look at it and be like, who the hell is this guy? Got Conor fight, So it's just one of those things. I hope the guy gets help, man. I hope somebody who actually gives a shit about him sits him down and is like, bro, go to a 100-day rehab, man. Try to get this thing turned around, because you're all over the freaking place right now. He's being eaten up legally. He's being eaten up financially and economically, because all of his sponsors are dropping him because of these liability suits and this, that, and the third. I mean, this shit is going down quick for Conor, right? I mean, who's going to throw him a lifeline? Obviously, there's been no one that's crossed paths with him so far that's done it or been willing to do it or willing to put their name and their asses on the line to help pull him out of the depths and out of the shadows. I don't know, man. We'll see how it ends. But anyway, please do subscribe to the channel. Like the video, comment down below. Let me know what you think about Conor, maybe what's next for him. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. Peace.